Good evening. I just want to share a little bit with you. I haven't been on YouTube for quite a while. A lot has been going on, but I'm very excited about the things I've been learning. And very creative yet logical woman. And I want to share with you some things I've been learning. And I want to get your feedback on this as well. So, a lot of us are learning how to navigate in the private. Now, many of the people who teach this, some of the ones who've been teaching it the longest, about nationality, about our identity here at United States of North America. Amarak, the land. We identify as many statuses, right? But we're people. Remember that we're people. And then we might choose nationalities. We might identify as American Indian. We might identify as African American, as Black, as Moors, as Israelites. I could go on, right? But those titles or those labels or statuses, they don't always talk about our bloodline, lineage, ties to the land, our inheritance on our mother's side, right? And in law, that does matter as far as estate law and trust law. With that said, this study is for maybe the intermediate to advanced learner, because I want to get some people's feedback on what I've been picking up on. Now, I will say part of my experience comes from my journey moving from public to the private. And a lot of that has to do with banking. So something that happened to me last week is I went to a public bank. Now, I know there are people who use the public bank, but they still do private banking there. All right. Well, I'm kind of early on in the journey, and I went, and I have I'm not going to talk about all the details of it, but I do carry a United States of America passport. That's what it is. It's a United States of America passport. And I'm not going to talk about my status, but I will say that I know that in law I cannot be a U.S. citizen. So with that said, I decided to open up a trust account at a public bank, a well-known, a large bank. It was a horrible experience. I'll just say at one bank, I only went to one. I went to two different branches of the same bank. And some persons, they said they were U.S. citizens because they were very insulted that I would think that they're anything other than U.S. citizens. But their bloodline lineage is from Akabulan, I'm sure, probably West. And they told me I was a U.S. citizen. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And they said, well, you have a U.S. passport. I'm like, no, I don't. This is a United States of America passport because we read, and that's what it says on it. That's what it is. And they told me that there was no way I could have a United States passport, United States of America, but no way I could have a United States passport if I wasn't a U.S. citizen. And I said, well, how do you know what I filled, what boxes I checked? How do you know that I checked the box saying that I was a U.S. citizen? I said, should we look together at the DS-11? They didn't want to look at the DS-11. I guess they just want to look at a lawsuit. But they didn't want to look at the DS-11. And it was just a terrible experience to be to live in a neighborhood that you've lived for a long time, and then finding that people come over here, don't know the laws, don't read. It's actually responsibility of the bank leaders to properly train the staff. But this is a pervasive problem, right? And I want to get some people's input. So anyway, then the next day, I went to a credit union. And I won't mention the federal credit union that I went to, but I did have a good experience. It was like a fraction of the cost to open up an account. And what happened was I went in, put my little name on the list. Now, mind you, this particular institution I went to, they were recently sued for not issuing mortgages to quote unquote African American / Black. Well, I know why they didn't. And a lot of people who are well studied know why they didn't issue them, why they weren't issuing them. I'm not going to go into it. But just to say, we as a people must learn how to bank properly. When we learn how to bank properly, then we won't be asking them for debt pledges in the form of mortgages. It's called private banking, secure transactions. All right. These are things that we'll need to learn how to do when we want to be an honor. When we're an honor, we don't have to sue people for not allowing us to have debt pledges. They're actually very dangerous, as someone who has been the victim of illegal, unlawful foreclosure. Well, I wouldn't say it was illegal, but the eviction that took place is illegal and unlawful. And so it helps me see some of the challenges that we have here at North America. And I'm looking forward to helping to make a difference. Okay. So I go into this credit union. I sit down with the young lady, and within 5 minutes, literally, the account was open in a status that I'm comfortable with. So I gave the passport, and she checked off some boxes, whatever. She printed out a piece of paper, and it said on the paper, the first line at the top of the paper, it was not whole, go back and forth with some people who are not from here, who don't read. It wasn't no back and forth with like that. It just said on the paper, if the person is not a U.S. citizen, and if they don't have a green card, do not fill out this form. Fill out form W-8. Well, I had form W-8-BEN with me. So, and this is word to the wise for you all who know about the 98 numbers. There's more than one way to call. And instead of us standing in line for reparations, it might be more prudent for the systems to just become accustomed to the fact that more of us are waking up and be prepared and just respond a little bit faster, so we can not have some of the ridiculous fallout that goes along with this transition and what's happening with the banking, public banking. Okay. So we're waking up, and it doesn't have to be painful. It really doesn't. So anyway, I let her know, hey, I'm not a U.S. citizen. That's not how I filled out the passport. That's not. And she said, okay, no problem. Let me see. Let me ask my manager. She comes back in like less than a minute. And she said, okay, fill out this form along with the W-8-BEN. And on that form that she gave me, it said on there, what is the number? Now I know how to sign for things, right? I know I'm not my name. So yes, I did use the social security number. But it asks on the form, what is the foreign ID number associated with this individual? Okay. So in this federal credit union, the attorneys there, because the attorneys approve the forms. I've worked for the federal government before. The attorneys read, they're trained, they're schooled. And I've also dealt with attorneys at some of these institutions that the attorneys don't have the same training. And it's not good. There are certain states where I guess people are on point. Okay. I live in like a tri-state area. So I know about 2 of them where I've done business, and the attorneys are on point in one particular jurisdiction, and then one state over. I'm like, do you just make up things or what? Because the logic isn't there. So anyway, this federal credit union, great experience. Opened it up. Boom. I'll go back eventually and open up more accounts in the proper way to tie our public and private affairs. Okay, so I've been studying, and I used to work as a licensed healthcare provider. And what I'm finding is many times when people are well educated, the more letters behind people's names, I guess they feel like they studied before, so they don't have to continue to learn or study. They'll just take what was given to them in an institution, and I don't know, I guess it's beneath them to continue to learn. And I guess they're not in uncomfortable situations where they would want to learn. So I find it's sometimes difficult communicating with highly educated people, especially if they've been doing something for a long time and they're convinced that it's correct. So I'm working out a legal controversy with a board of examiners. And there's actually a bit of a problem across the country with licensed healthcare providers. Their estates being pillaged by the board. So there was a recent Supreme Court case that overturned the Chevron deference. So, and I hope I'm saying that right. I've heard other people say it different, but what I understand is there was a Chevron case where the Supreme Court decided that Administrative Procedures Act, whereas the attorneys at the various agencies could defer to their own judgment. And it's going to be attorneys that help make these decisions. So for instance, a board, this happened to me, a board attorney who does not have a license in the field that I had a license, made a whole bunch of statements because of what he thought or what he felt. This particular board has a reputation for being egregious toward the licensees. That's their source of income. And this is in violation of Uniform Commercial Code. It's in violation of ethics. It's in violation now, once it's called upon, once I call it a thing. It's in violation of, it's always been in violation of my rights. It's always been in the street of my state. But the case, and if I could find it, I have a lot of windows already open, but the case that just overturned the Chevron deference case on the Administrative Procedures Act, it comes out and says that anything that is not constitutional, right? Any act or decision that's not constitutional that's not acceptable. We're not going to use that defer to your judgment. We're going to use the Constitution of the United States of America and the treaties upon which it is bound, right? So I hear these conversations from Moors, from other people about whether we're U.S. citizens, not citizens. And, we're not all citizens. Some people are U.S. nationals, which is a U.S. person. Some people are nationals, non-citizens. Some people are operating as U.S. citizens, even though there are cases that says that's not a thing. Okay. And when you find that you're not having the quality of life that you want, you deserve, some of these things might be coming into play. Moral? No, but it is what it is. And people justify it by the lack of your lack of understanding about what's happening. So that's why it's important that even though you might be well educated with a whole bunch of letters behind your name, it might be a good time to study and read. Okay. So I'm trying to, you have to start where people are. You always start with where people are when it comes to education. So now if I'm talking to 8, 10 people who don't read, who know everything, right? And I want to communicate a message to them, and they don't feel that they're needing to learn anything, they're good, right? It's my responsibility to communicate with them in a way that is going to affect the change. It's going to affect the situation where I can be treated fairly in commerce. All right. So what I've done was studied the IRS codes a little bit so I can get a better understanding of what it is that I need to do. And I want to get some other professionals' feedback on this, right? Because many of us are in a transition, like I said, from moving out of the public into the private, but we also have our rights in commerce. So how do we do that? How do we exercise our rights? How do we, like as a licensed healthcare professional, I noticed they changed the code. They changed it where they said, oh, you don't have to use your social security number anymore. Well, that's fine and all, but you didn't put on there that, hey, all these people whose estates we're helping you tap into, we're going to have to start telling them who they are and that they're actually wealthy. They didn't put that on there. And that is actually a violation of Terrasol. So I will address that. I got a lot to address, right? So someone who's in healthcare, particularly as a social worker, you know about that case, duty to warn. We have a duty to warn people when they're in danger. And we also have a duty to make sure that the signatures that we obtain from people, that's when social work services start. If you're helping somebody, okay, you're helping them. That's not social work. To help somebody is not providing social work. To help somebody is to be in contract and offering healthcare services. Unlike, let's say, an attorney might have a consultation, you didn't sign any kind of contract. It doesn't work like that with healthcare. Okay, so just know that. It just doesn't. Board attorney. Okay, so remember, a lot of people fill out this W8BN, right? And I appreciate how Jonah Bay broke this down. He breaks it down well. Look that up. Watch his teachings on the 98 number. But W being Allah, 8 being infinite, turn it to the side, right? And then BEN, beneficial son. So the way to being private is through the sun. He explains it better than me, but I did notice even before I really got into his teaching the correlation between the Bible and the IRS codes. All right, so now this certificate of foreign status of beneficial owner for United States tax withholding and reporting individuals. Okay, they have one for entities as well. So when you read this form, let me see if I can tie this in so you all can see what I'm saying. Present. Share screen. Oh. Don't share screen. Let's see. Maybe not. Let me just tell you to pull it up. I'll be practicing on how to pull it up, but I'm going to read it. Okay, so part 1, name of individual who is the beneficial owner. Okay. Now, when you fill this out, country of citizenship. Now, of course, for me, the country of citizenship would be the country in which, or the nation state in which the certificate of live birth was first issued. That's what I would put. Okay. That, and then United States of America. Might even put / Morocco, depending on how I'm feeling about it. But that's part 1, and we can just skip that for right now. Going down to part 2, claim of tax treaty benefits. Now, are you a U.S. citizen? Well, I don't know that you should be claiming tax treaty benefits if you're a U.S. citizen and you're checking Black or African American. Those things, to me, don't go together, but I don't know. Well, that's not the status I've chosen, is to be a U.S. citizen, because I know in law it's not appropriate. So the treaty would be the Treaty of Marrakesh, 1786, 1836, and the Treaty of Tripoli. Those are the treaties. And boom, there you go. Now, if you look on here, it doesn't say anything. It said person named on line 1 of this form is not a U.S. person. So now, mind you, U.S. nationals are U.S. persons. U.S. nationals are U.S. persons. Just know that. U.S. citizens are U.S. persons. The national non-citizen is not a U.S. person. So it's already been said by some that we're not supposed to have passports, that they're not constitutional. Now, you know that there's a difference between a passport and a visa. Now, if you're foreign to the U.S., if you're foreign to the U.S. corporation, then you would probably need a visa to come in. That's what the visa is for, to come in. If you go look at the types of visas, there are actually a couple of visas that would fit a foreign who is indigenous to the United States of North America, Amarak. It would actually be appropriate, right? I'm not going to go over that right now. But what I'm going to do is, because of that license that is part of my estate, I'm like, well, what if I wanted to do something with that, right? Because this is a time that we're going to need to make changes. And I already received a letter from the Department of Labor letting me know that my rights have been escheated with a group of us, and about the right to form a union. In the tri-state area that I domicile, a union would be really good. I know some of the social workers, when they work for the schools, they joined the teachers union. But there were a few years there that their needs were not met. They changed, you have to have, a graduate license, but no, now you have to have a clinical above the graduate. And they got paid monies back, some of them that were in limbo with them changing requirements. But I think that having a union for the social workers in this tri-state area would be really beneficial, because this is a profession where definitely our constitutional rights are are being taken from us because there is a restriction. Like once you get this license, then you cannot, right? In one particular state is then you cannot think, then you cannot protest, then you cannot help someone else unless you do under the license. I remember one time I was actually helping my mother with something, and someone said, well, it wasn't someone who's culturally unified with myself. They said, well, why would you do that? You know, you're a social worker, right? You know, she has her own will. You know what? She's not my client. She is my mother. So if I pick a diet that I know that is like evidence-based and what I think is best at this particular time when the decisions are up to me to make, then I'm not my kin's, my relatives' social worker. I am my relative's relative, and I take full responsibility. And the decisions I make for my relative are not the same decisions I would make for a client. What in the world? So people have a real skewed idea about a license. A license is not something that is going to be used to take away a right. A license would be something to say, hey, if there's a role that I want in commerce, I'll agree to meet the qualifications of this license and use it in this setting. It doesn't mean that you can take away my God-given rights in commerce. That's something that I think once we gain this idea, then maybe people will come out of this fear of letting the Aboriginal people to the Americas, letting us go, because so much of the economy is built on our energy, right? We really just want to be left alone. And we'll contribute to your organizations as long as they're not contrary to our God-given rights. So, okay, so that's the WBEN. All right, so identification of the beneficial owner. This is the one for the individual. Beneficial owner of the U.S. corporation. All right, that's what it is. Because each of the ends, legis, first, middle, last, mini little corps of that larger corp. And this form right here is documenting, letting them know that, hey, I don't have to file. And, since 2019, they've been trying to tell you, please stop paying taxes. You're making the debt deeper. You're making inflation higher. They tell you that. I'm paraphrasing, but yes. So part 3 is just a certification of it to make sure it's the right form. Okay, boom. Now let me move on here to the non-resident alien form. Because a resident, if you look up the word, is a thing of the state. So now if you're saying you're not a thing of the state, see, I'm a woman, I'm not a resident. Some people, it works for them to be residents, and that's fine. And I have no criticism. Part of this is me having this conversation to open it up so I can learn from other people. Okay, not to tell somebody what to do. So, resident, etymology. The word is not what we think it means, it's what it really is. All right, so English, Middle English, remaining, a person who lives somewhere permanently on a long-term basis. Okay, that's the dictionary. We don't want the dictionary. We want the etymology of a word. So where is my etymology? It's not coming up. Resident meaning. That's not what I want. I know that it means a thing of. All right. So I'm not a thing of the state. All right. So I'm not a resident. I'm a non-resident. All right. So with that being said, I know what that word means. I'll find it for you guys. But I don't have the instruments that make me a resident of the state. I've decided to relinquish my state, the last state driver's license that I had. I might have done it in a different order than what I did had I known what I know now. But I'm just saying that is what it is. There are other things I've done too to take myself out of like living in the corporate, right? So that's the non-resident alien. All right. So an alien is any individual who's not a U.S. citizen. I'm not a U.S. citizen or a U.S. national. Now, some of you who have changed your status have decided to land on being a U.S. national. Okay. So a non-resident alien is an alien who has not passed the green card test or substantial presence test. So what I'm understanding from this is that if you are a U.S. national, maybe you are still passing the substantial presence test, and I'm wondering if that is why some of you have, I don't know, I think some of us still have problems, but some of us have problems in enforcing our rights and saying, you know, I'm not a citizen, but they're still treating you like a citizen because the status that you've chosen does not take you out of the court tests. And I'm wondering if some people have accidentally put themselves back into the court test where no matter what you say, they're not really hearing you, or you got to have 3 or 4 people say it for you versus having it on paper properly and operating in the private, because it is in the private that our constitutional rights are enforced. All right. It's in the private that the treaties are enforced. And in the IRS code, it does tell you that. And I'll get on that, probably not tonight, but I'll share it with you another time. Okay. So, mind you, if I go to the board and I say to the board, hey, you have that social security number and I'm just going to sign all rights reserved or whatever. Do you think that they're going to understand that or pay attention to that? Trust me. I have no indication to think that they are. None at all. None at all. None at all. So, okay, so what? Do I just turn in a WBEN form to them to let them know? No, because see, that WBEN form, yes, it does claim the tax treaty benefits. Maybe that would help. Of course, I would do my affidavits. Of course, I'll put forth my claims in commerce. I've already done one, but I did it for gold. I didn't do it for enough, though. I didn't do it for enough because it's difficult for me to monetize that. Like I said, I would have done it different. Okay, so I'm looking here and I'm like, this doesn't say anything about really what I do, right? It doesn't say anything about the personal services that I offer. Now, mind you, personal service, according to the IRS, this category of pay includes payments. There is a gold side to the dollar, to the floating rate notes. All right, everybody got a little bit of gold, and there is a gold side to it. It's just the bankers have it, not so much us directly. But so go back to this pay thing. This category of pay includes payments for professional services, such as fees of an attorney, a physician, or an accountant made directly to the person performing the services. It also includes honorary pay by colleges and universities to visit teachers, lecturers, and researchers. Now, notice this, attorneys, they have some type of certification they have to pass. Now, an attorney and a lawyer are not the same thing. And I notice people are starting to like mesh those terms together. An attorney is someone who has passed a bar and who's taken an oath. Physician, yes, they've gone to medical school, and I think that they also would be someone who is, passed a board test. And there might be an accountant that is not a CPA or something like that. So I'm not as familiar with accounting piece, but if someone is working, let's say as a nurse, and they're getting paid, they've passed some type of licensing. And that is important to know that people are qualified to do whatever it is. It's when the license then limits your ability to, let's say someone, as long as you're a licensed nurse, you can't put a Band-Aid on your own child. Like, that's ridiculous. Now, in a hospital setting or whatever, there's certain things you do, community health, certain things you do a certain way all the time, every time, or you're a violation of your license. But when you're not in that setting, you should be able to do whatever you need to do, as long as it does not impact your ability to work, all right, to perform the other tasks. So here we are, knowing that I'm not willing to really just let that license go, because there's so many changes and I can't really be effective not having the license, as far as the changes that need to be made to bring the system into order and honor. All right, because the way it is now is not sustainable. All right. So I was reading the WBEN. So that's the U.S. Okay, so they're treaty benefits, right? But without really getting into my status, it took me to reading about the I-10, right? Now, people have all sorts of ideas in their head, and they don't read. They just think something is so. For instance, that first bank, they told me since I didn't have a green card that I had to be a U.S. citizen. Like, just check the box that it's neither and see what the computer generates. I've been in these situations before where I've visited a store and I'm like, I'm gonna need you to put in this number for my, for not to pay sales tax. And it was only a couple of dollars, however, maybe even a couple of cents. But I didn't want to have to go through that each time that I went to the store with trying to convince somebody something. I just wanted to be in the computer so when I would go. And the lady did what I asked, and it was right there in the computer for someone like myself who would ask for that to be tax exempt. All right. So really, I'm non-taxable. It's different to be tax exempt and non-taxable. But whatever, she finally did it. And then when I went each time, I was able to, I'm able to make purchases at this particular store. And there's a way wherever you go. It's just the path might be different, might be a little bit more required of you to do it. All right. So as I'm studying, I'm reading the I-10 form. And I want to know people's take on this, because imagine this. It's a lot of people who want to walk in their birthright, but they really just don't know how to get there. And I mean, there's some people who just don't know. They're in situations, they know something's not right, but they don't know how to get out. All right. And what I've gone through and how I've suffered trying to figure this out, no one else should have to go through that. No one else. It's ungodly. It's ungodly. And I don't really agree with this whole idea of like, there's no evil. It's just, no, some things are evil. And I'm not putting the blame on anyone, But where there's trauma and there's hurt and pain, and it can be alleviated, but no one's standing up to alleviate it, that to me is evil. All right. And it is because people miss the opportunities to help and do for others. I'm not talking about like save the whole world or whatever, but just because sometimes truth is not told, then others suffer needlessly, irreparably. And I think that's evil. That's my opinion. Okay. Now, so the way you get an I-10 would be to fill out the form W-7. Now, anyone who's moving from the public to the private, at some point or another, you recognize that most people are not operating with the same legacy that they were assigned by their mothers at birth. All right. Now, some people, I guess, were assigned, whether it be Al, Il, Day, Bay, Ali, okay, at birth. All right. Many not. All right. And if you're like, well, I'm not into all that thing. Okay, well, some of you say, you're Israel. Well, so then you're ill. Simple. Boom. All right. So what it is for the W-7, okay, if you change or you do a name correction, but then you change no numbers or you don't change the status of the number that you were assigned to go along with the certificate of live birth connecting to the Social Security number, if you've had a Social Security number and you change or correct your name and that's it, and then you think you're not going to have problems, you don't do a Form 56, you don't shut the number down, you don't do anything else, and then you're dealing with people who refuse to learn. They come over here from different countries, which is fine if you want to do as we do, but you don't want to do as we do. You want to do what you made up in order to get $1. And you end up unintentionally abusing people, and you end up setting yourself up for lawsuits. All right. And then when it comes to punitive damages, they're unlimited. There are 3 categories or so for lawsuits, and it's unlimited. And people are not that low level where we're just going to like turn on you and get violent. No, we're going to use our pen and we're going to use our brains, and we're going to apply the laws that are turning in our favor for us to be able to live free. All right. So, and I'm not saying this is the thing to do. I'm asking a question, but I do notice here that for someone like myself, let's say I wanted to perform a certain function, and I want to say, yes, I'm a social worker in this particular jurisdiction that's tying the public into the private, your private rights, but still in the public, right? So I'm not going to really not necessarily do that with the Social Security number, because it leaves the door wide open for people who don't read to take advantage of me. And one thing is you want to prioritize is your safety, your physical safety, your emotional safety, your financial safety. You don't want to set yourself up to be taken advantage of. That's what the Spirit's telling me. So now, if I am operating with my, let's say, a nationality name or appellation, okay, then am I just going to use the same number I had been using as a U.S. citizen? Maybe not. Maybe a CPN number would not work. What is that, a credit privacy number? Maybe that would not work in this situation. Why? Because the numbers that you use to apply for the license at the state level, it goes up to the federal level, right? And what I think happened in the situation that I was charged for something wrongfully, right? They sent a report that had no national provider number on it to the federal level. So I don't even think they were able, I think they were trying to collect insurance based on my estate because it went up to them in the last comma first middle name, which is the creditor side of my estate. So they were trying to collect on the insurance. But I don't think that really worked because there was no NPI number. Well, maybe it did work, but I'm going to get it back. I'm going to accept the charge because it's a charge to my estate. I'm going to accept it, and then we're going to go from there. All right? Because I'm learning how to defend my rights a little bit more. But with that said, is it good then for me to just keep using that same number when I know that who I'm dealing with? All right, leopard, what is it? Tiger, who is it? Don't change their spots, stripes, whatever. So, instructions for the form W7. That might be something to look up, right? Now, pay attention to the numbers. 7 is masculine perfection. 8 is more so feminine perfection, to my understanding. One of the things that 8 can represent. All right, so general instructions. This is page number 2. What is the I-10? It's a 9-digit number issued by IRS to individuals. Can someone show me where, well, let me just ask this a different way. How many trusts can you create? Because the Constitution says we have the ability to contract unlimited. So how many trusts can we create? We can create multiple trusts. Is an individual a woman or a man? Is an individual the same as a woman or man? Is a natural person the same as a people? Is a natural person the same as a people? No, to me, those are two different words. People, person, not the same words. People, person. Natural person, people, not the same. Now, natural person and individual may be the same. See, an individual has many rights in commerce, and then an individual can do things that, let's say, a corporation cannot do. All right. Now, so let me just give an example. You cannot go get a driver's license per se. Let's say you're a truck driver. You cannot go get a driver's license for a corporation. You can't put my trucking company. I'm my trucking company, and I'm going to. No, you have to put last, first, middle. Right? There are other things too. Other licenses or other things that might benefit you in commerce and trade, where you want to have an individual that suits you. So an individual where I just corrected the ens legis appellation, but then you have the same social security number, that might not suit me. It might be the case that maybe an I-10 would. I want to get your opinion on this, people. So use the W-7 for the following purposes. See, apply for a new ITIN, including a U.S. federal tax, unless they meet exception to the required documentation. Okay, so I'm going to skip down to renew because I'm not with that. I don't have an ITIN as of today. Now, one thing I noticed, remember I talked about that court test. Now, let's say I created a foreign trust, and in the foreign trust, I put my first, middle, last name, or I should say my last, first, middle name, doing business as my first, middle, last. Okay. So the creditor side doing business as the debtor side, right? Let's say that was the case. Now, is it then good to be signing these contracts with other? Well, first of all, these contracts are not really contracts. Unilateral contracts aren't, right? It's kind of messy. So, me, the woman, with more than one individual, not defrauding anyone or hiding or anything, would it be appropriate to acquire an ITIN as I offer personal services, which we already covered what personal services are? Now, I can just say it right here. Let me find the actual ITN form. Oh, I got the instructions for it, the W-7. Let's see. Application for individual taxpayer. Now, I didn't go on the main page today, but on the first page of the IRS, it said one day, it said, we're here for those who want to honor the tax code. And we're also here for people who want to pay taxes, and we will help you do so. Okay, so let's wake up to what's happening. They're trying to help you come into honor with your finances. Pay unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Pay unto the taker what is the taker's. But if you are a creation of the Most High and your energy is with the Most High, I don't know if the Most High is asking you to trying to tax you more than what life already taxes you. Okay? All right. So an IRS individual taxpayer identification number for U.S. federal tax purposes only. Now, all these fees and that sort of thing, these are taxes, okay? But we know when we do things properly that we can receive back what we put out into the system. We are the system, right? The currency loop, private banking. So the reason you are submitting a W-7, it says to read the instructions, all right? Unless you meet one of the exceptions, you don't necessarily need this. So box A, non-resident alien required to get an ITIN to, look it here, claim a tax treaty benefit. Non-resident alien required to get an ITIN to claim a tax treaty benefit. Now, if you're using a nationality in commerce, and I think nationality and commerce, they do have something to do with each other personally. I really do. But that's a whole nother thing. Because I do understand a nationality to be a part, like as a natural person. Okay? Maybe a little bit different than your standing as a people's. Just me. But anyway, so the non-resident alien required to get an ITIN to claim a tax treaty benefit. So if I'm using ill and not ill, I can't get a social security number with ill. If you want me to use a social security number for something, let's just say I decide I want to drive for Uber or something, right? And I want to go get a license back. I'm not going to use that social security number. Listen, that car was even taken from me, just to keep it real, right? For multiple reasons, I would not use a social security number to go to get a license. However, let's just say I want to be able to rent a car or to do something that requires a license. See, that's why it wasn't so smart for me to get rid of it the way I did. Okay, with a clean record and just to relinquish it. That's not thinking ahead. That's not going down all the pros and cons. And just because someone said to do it doesn't mean that was the right thing to do. And many other people have recommended like way better ways to do that. But anyway, here we are. Let's say I want to go get the license. I know how to sign for things properly, reserve my rights. If I went back into the system, first of all, that name, when you run my government name, like they suspend it. They don't close it out. They just suspend it. And then if you're not savvy enough to not show it, or if you're not savvy enough to leave the voided one at home, I have had it where a policy enforcer just created an address that didn't belong. They made it up. Unlawfully detained. Okay, there's a lawsuit, but who has time to live their life just suing? I mean, of course, we do have to train our the people who are supposed to be keeping us safe, and knowing that that's not really why they're there. They're not there to keep us safe. Some of them are just there to escheat our estates, respectfully. So anyway, there are times when you're not going to want anyone to know the ens legis that you were assigned, because they don't know what to do with it other than to pillage your estate, not to keep you safe. They're just trained in a way that is antiquated. All right. So now I have the appropriate ID. Let's say it's the case. I have the appropriate ID with my national name or national appellation, right? And I want to go into a contract properly, reserving all my rights and claiming all my God-given rights and being protected by the Constitution, right? I'm not a resident, so maybe a non-resident alien to the United States Corporation. When you see alien, it means alien to the United States Corporation. It doesn't mean alien to the land. It means alien to the United States Corporation. I'm not a corporation. I'm a woman, all right? Now, non-resident alien required to get an ITIN to claim a tax treaty benefit. So the benefits of the treaty it's already agreed upon. It's already the Treaty of Tripoli, Treaty of Marrakesh, the United States of America Constitution. It is bound by the treaties, right? And the Articles of Confederation, all right? So now, a non-resident alien filing a U.S. tax return, that's another reason why someone would get an ITIN. So if you're doing that in the status as a non-resident alien. A U.S. resident alien based on days present in the United States corporation filing a U.S. federal tax return. Okay. But ill is not in the United States. Ill is the United States of America. And our estates are based, well, the United States are based on our estates. Okay, so I'm not a thing of the state. The ens legis, the 14th Amendment citizen, that is a thing of. And that status, is corrected by correcting the contracts and deciding if you want to go back into contracts and agreements, how to do so properly. I'm exploring, is this a reasonable way to do so using your tribal name and having more than one nationality? Statutorily, some people we know that there are nations within nations, right? So someone's status, their estate might be, the legal title would be with one of the state of the states, but maybe you've made a claim to the beneficial ownership in your estate, okay? But you don't want to identify yourself, your individual, in the same way. So that's just something that I'm exploring. And looking here, F, non-resident alien student or professor. What if I want to go teach at a university, right? Oh, something else I noticed when I changed the status of my ens legis with the passport. All right. I looked on my credit report and I'm like, well, looky here. Look at all these great student loan payments that I've allegedly been making. Well, you know, I'm not going to say what I changed the status to because I'm not really finished. It was a stepping stone to the next move I'm going to make, and I will share with everyone. But, that's a whole nother thing. Certain statuses, you cannot make loans, you cannot make loans to people, to persons, depending on their status. And I guess above and beyond that, instead of waiting for you to figure it out and correct it, they just went ahead and corrected it for you because my credit report is looking so much better since I changed my status. Things are coming up paid. I'm working on getting it straight, but I guess I wasn't working fast enough and they straightened it out for me because there is such thing as banking acts and securities fraud and not. And nobody wants to go to jail. And nobody wants to be accused of treason. So the bankers are getting it together as much as they can. But I think we could help them along by going to bank, learning ourselves individually, talking about this, and then setting it forth about what we need in order to be left alone. Because, like I said, one bank might have a little lawsuit coming up. That's just utterly ridiculous. And not everybody is able to study and do the logical thinking and research and compliance. I've, had a lot of experiences when it comes to compliance, right? And the whole if then. So, like, if I need an identification number for the services, the personal services I provide as a licensed professional, and I want it to be known that I accept my God-given rights that are treaty protected, then maybe I'll acquire another number that is appropriate for what I'm doing in commerce, right? So looking at that the W-7 to acquire an I-10 under nationality, under one of my national names, because I do have the right to have more than one nationality, right, for my individual. And then does that make it that I have more than one individual? If I have more than one appellation, maybe I have more than one number to keep things clean, not messy. So let's just be creative, right? And then even when you're in the role of fiduciary, what have you, people are afraid to, if you fill out this form, they're going to come try to arrest you and this and that. If you conduct your business in a way where you're not putting yourself under the court test, that is the realm of the dead. And it's the realm of the dead. And unfortunately, I'm learning some of those in the position of the corporate judiciary. They're not really reading. I don't know if it's selective understanding or what, but I notice the state that I'm coming out of, like the men wear black dresses. Get out of here. They wear black dresses. It's a religion. And thank you for listening to me. I don't know if I said it from the beginning. Yes, I have more questions than answers. Of course, that's fine. I think that we need to ask more questions and think logically when we make decisions. rather than just jumping into things based on what someone told us or what have you. We must read and research. So again, get that WHBEN, read that, and get the instructions for it. Read that. Read the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, the Treaty of Tripoli, the W7, read that. Non-resident aliens, instructions for let's see, Google, right? Or go to the IRS website, ask what something is, personal services performed, right? Don't expect people are going to care for you more than you care for yourself, because it's called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance. Where I stay, this man said, I said, I'd rather just find out what's happening so I can help you. Because this is like, I can't believe it. Somebody told me to do something I knew was wrong. There's no amount of money that they can pay me just to make me do wrong stuff that has a severe impact on people's lives. And he said, well, yeah. And I was like, because I don't want to just jump out and sue. That doesn't fix things automatically. He said, yeah, because we've been sued a lot. And I'm like, how you get sued a lot and you still doing the same evil, wicked mess? That's crazy to me. It's not just crazy to me. It's crazy. It's sad. It's actually criminal, and it's human trafficking. And so knowing that that's the times, these are the times that we're in. Let's read. Let's know if we're here during this time, we're built for this. Let's support one another. And let's keep it moving. And if there is something that is like keeping you from moving forward, just know that read, gain as much knowledge as you can, and look for people who want you to be free, because there are many who like feed off of your energy, and we need more people who are working hard to get free and to make the world better. Because I am a naturalist. I know many of my friends are naturalists, and I think it's all or none right now, right? It's all or none. War is outdated. It's outdated. And it's time for love and peace and harmony. All right, stay up. Later. I'll tell you where I end up, but I just want to share with you my journey. Okay? It's a good thing. Peace.